Good morning, Ginger.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on streamlining Azure and SQL databases with Microsoft Fabric. My name is Toral Buradia, Chief Operating Officer at Santor Technologies, a Microsoft Fabric featured partner specializing in data analytics and AI. We empower organizations by leveraging Microsoft Fabric and other advanced technologies to drive innovations and insights. Our team has successfully delivered several data and AI solutions across industries, and we specialize in helping companies migrate from other data visualization tools like Click, Tableau, BI tools such as Business Objects, and other cloud and on prem databases using our Migrate to Fabric solution, our proprietary Migrate to Fabric solution. I am thrilled to have Ginger Grant here with us today. Ginger is a Microsoft Data Platform MVP and a Microsoft certified trainer. Ginger is a data consultant and a prolific writer, sharing her insights through articles, books, and on her blog, desertisleSQL.com. In this session today, we will dive into how Fabric simplifies database deployment and configuration using features like auto configuration, performance monitoring, and built-in source control. Having said that, Ginger, I am going to hand it over to you.
Great. Well, thank you very much. So, um, what we're going to uh, what we're going to be doing is uh, talking all about everything that you can do inside of Fabric. So, with the new Fabric database. So, one thing that Microsoft is looking to do is making sure that Fabric is your one-stop shop for all things data, and that including a database inside of it. And this is going to make it easier to uh, to create applications using a database that's configured inside of Microsoft Fabric, because um, unlike say using an Azure SQL DB, you'll have the ability to not have to worry about so much of the configuration because it's all done for you. So let's take a look at how to make that work. So SQL databases inside of Fabric, if you're thinking, well, I have not heard that before, then it's probably because it's so new. It was released in November of 2024, and it's designed to simplify deploying and configuring the database. And it's auto-configured so that it can take minutes. And it comes with a Copilot in the query editor and a Copilot pane. So you have lots of different abilities to learn it and help get it going. And one of the things that you can do with it to know about it, so it was added in November 2024. And really what it is an implementation of Azure SQL. It is really, think of it as you would any kind of an Azure SQL database. So it stores data inside of OneLake, and that is automatically done. You don't have to do anything to make that happen. It is just going to work almost like magic for you so that you can get it going to do everything that you need to do. The reason that it's valuable that it stores the data inside of OneLake is that means that it's possible to use it for direct lake configurations for Power BI. So if that is of interest to you, you don't have to do anything. It's automatically done for you. So it comes with like kind of an auto mirror, as if you will. And like I said, it's designed for applications. It contains a very easy capability for using and implementing GraphQL. So if you want to use that inside of your database, you can. And it automatically includes vectorization of your data content, which makes it very easy for your AI modeling. So it was designed the same way that a lot of the other tools were designed inside of Fabric. It has really no knobs. You just turn it on and it goes. And one of the things that it automatically includes inside of it is query auto tune. So if you're like, I'm not that much of a DBA and I'm not sure how to tune my database for what tasks that I'm doing, you don't really need to worry about it. What AutoTune does is it is constantly evaluating what you are using the database for. And in that evaluation, what it will do is it will automatically add indices that it sees that you need. And let's say that your database is the backend for an application. Maybe you add a new feature that changes the indexes that you're using because it changes the queries that you're using. AutoTune will also remove indexes that it created that are no longer valid. So it constantly is analyzing the performance of your database and then looking to see what it needs to do to improve the ongoing performance. So let's just take a look at what that looks like inside of Fabric. And I'm going to show you two different demos here. This is going to be what I like to call the cooking school version, where you have everything automatically completed for you. I'm just showing you where I'm going to end up. I've got my SQL database loaded here. You see that it looks a lot like a lake house or a warehouse, perhaps. I have my connection strings listed here so that if I want to use it inside of SQL Server Management Studio, of course I can. But notice that this is giving you a different ability to connect because it is thinking that you're going to want to do this inside of an application. So you can connect using JDBC, ODBC, PHP, or Go, and it gives you all of the code that you need to do that and gives you a link for downloading those drivers if you want to be able to do that inside of applications. So making this real easy for you to connect to it. And connection strings here are quite a bit different. Well, I'm going to go ahead and create a new item. Last week, just for those of you who maybe have not noticed this, Fabric's changed its interface. And so instead of having all of the different user experiences listed down here at the bottom, we now have just two. We've got Fabric and we've got Power BI. So inside of Fabric is where I'm going to be doing all the things. Now, I have a workspace already. This is Fabric feature functionality, which means that you are going to need to be able to for your Fabric feature functionality, you're going to have a capacity workspace. So capacity workspaces are what's going to be necessary for you to be able to make this work. So just keep that in mind when you do that. So I'm going to use my workspace here. You can see that it has Fabric content, and this indicates that I have added a domain to it. So here's the database that we looked at previously. Let's look to see what it takes to actually create a new database. So I'm going to say new item. And in my list of items here, I am going to select under the store data section, SQL database. Now this is in preview, which means that there will be features added to it going forward. You want to make sure to check the Microsoft documentation as more features and functionality are added to it. So I'm going to go ahead and select SQL database. And I'm going to create this new database, and I'm just going to call this Santor and say create. And it is working on it. And in a minute or two, it will be done. And it's loading it. I'm done. Now, the next thing that you are going to want to do when you are building your database is, of course, add data to it. So it gives you the ability to, give you some options. Hey, do I want to add data to it using Dataflow Gen 2? Do I want to create a new pipeline? Do I want to use it using temp tables? For purposes of this demonstration, and also to help you in your learning path going forward with SQLDB, you can go ahead and click on sample data. And it is automatically going to load a sample data into my database so that I have the ability to just start playing around with it, seeing what it can do, what I can get out of it, what kind of features and functionality that I can make or work with this. In addition to that, it does show the connection strings like we saw earlier inside of the settings area. Notice it also contains the built-in ability to do a new API for GraphQL and the performance summary. So let's see, I've got my data here that it loaded. It's still loading it. I'm looking here at the little itty bitty line that you can see. It's kind of barely up here. Of course, when I did that, but moving on me, where it is importing my sample data. So never forget to look at your bell icon, because the bell icon is where you get all the notifications and you can see what it's doing. Otherwise, you think, yeah, it's broke, when it's just busy working along. So one of the things that makes this a very easy database for non-DBAs to use is the ability to do all sorts of monitoring here inside of it. It also includes a number of different templates. So if you're thinking, well, I don't really know SQL that well, how am I going to make this work? And it'll give you, and you want to say, I want to create a new schema. You can go ahead and do that by saying new schema. And it gives you the ability to add schema names just to it. So I got some built-in data that I can play around with. No, I didn't. It's still loading about. I got some sample data. Oh, here's my sample data. My sample data is contained inside of Sales LT. And we can see here that I've got address, customer, product category. For those of you who think maybe this looks sort of familiar, it is a subset of the AdventureWorks database that you can use in playing around with it. So it loaded that separate database here for me to start playing around with it. So I can do what I am used to doing inside of my standard UI. So I can right click on it and say that I'd like to look at the top 1,000 rows. And it is giving me the top 1,000 rows. You'll notice here that I have my different tabs up top so that I can scroll back to the different things that I was looking at previously. Unlike Lakehouse and Warehouse, it's you also have the queries so that you can see the queries here as well. So all of those automatically get created. So to get started, if there are some things that you're looking to do for table view, store procedure, and function, easy to create those inside of your database. All you need to do is just select these templates, and then you have the ability to do that. So really cool functionality that you don't have to turn any knobs to make happen. So let's take a look at some of the different features that are included inside of a SQL DB for Fabric. For one thing, there's performance monitoring. The performance monitoring is really quite good. The performance modeling allows you to take a look at what's going on at any given point inside of your database so that you can review what's going on and what you might need to do to improve things inside of your performance monitor. So it's very easy to see anything going on. You can review the current or past states, and you can see the status and health of what you are doing. In addition, you also have the ability to do source control. So let's take a look at both performance monitoring and source control inside of our SQL DB. So I am going to go back to our database here, and I want to look at my previous database because I'm going to have more information for it when it comes to performance summary. So to access performance summary information, all I need to do is, of course, access it, and it's showing all of the information that it has for it. It's looking at a trend over 24 hours. I've not done a whole lot with it. Looking at my allocated size, and you can see here that I have a performance dashboard as well. So inside of my dashboard, it's going to show me my CPU consumption. It shows 24 hours, but I could also do it over the last 30 days, see what all I have done with it. I don't have a whole lot of data that you can see here. But one of the interesting things that we can see that I have selected here is the top CPU consuming queries. So if I have an application and maybe some of the queries that it's using are kind of buried, or maybe I've got users that are doing a lot of ad hoc work on this. I can see what queries that have been executed and how much time that they're taking up. I have also the ability to create my own indexes if I want to improve the performance of any of the queries that you see here. I can also choose to make some of them my favorites. So if I want to say make this a favorite, then I can view just my favorites. So I can continually to review if I've got the same queries that are coming up over and over again. And I'm kind of watching a couple of them to see perhaps if an index I just created made a difference. That's something that I can do here inside of my CPU performing queries. And these are just the tops. I can look at all of the queries should I want to wish to do that. So if I'm looking at my query, I can select the query ID and I get an even deeper dive into what I was doing with it. And so I can see that I was doing a description with a GUID. I can compare performance. It only ran once. I can copy this query. I can look at it within Visual Studio Code, or I can open it inside of SQL Server Management Studio. So automatically I have the ability to run the whatever I did again, and I can just copy that script and put this in any place that I want to for further analysis and playing around with it. I do have this from on the drop down list from the past 30 days, but I do have it actually a little bit longer, and I can look at customize my range so that I can see it at different times. So that I've got that capability. So it's really going to provide me the ability to really tightly monitor the performance over time and making it really easy to see what's going on inside of my database. Now, one thing that is always a really big issue when you are talking about databases is source control. Everybody wants databases to be in source control, and well, they don't always necessarily do that. Now, source control inside of Fabric is always contained inside of the workspace. So inside of my Fabric workspace, you'll notice I have a number of things. I have source control set up, but I don't have some things committed. So let's go ahead and look at my workspace settings, look at, see that what I have committed and uncommitted, and probably commit some things too. So inside of my workspace settings, I have Git integration configured here. I'm using Azure DevOps, and I've got an organization, a product, and a Git repo, and a folder selected. And I also am going to automatically check things out to my dev branch and then later migrate them to main. And so this is how it is currently configured. So if I want to commit anything to my workspace, of course, I can do that by looking at my source control window here. And I got a bunch of stuff here. Let me just take a look at my warehouse, and we'll just focus on those rather than everything on the planet that I have in here. So here's my Acme database. So we can see that I have to add it because it's not been added. So I'm going to go ahead and commit this. And I'm going to get a notification when my changes are committed. So we can see everything that I have been working on. I may not be ready to commit all of those as of yet, but I'm ready to commit my Acme database that I've had out there for a while, and then I can do that. We can also see that I have a couple of things that exist, but they have been changed. So I need to take a look at using those. But so since my selected change, which was just for my database, have been committed, let's take a look at how to make that work. Now you're seeing it looks exactly the same. That's because I give it a minute, and now it is shown up as synced. So any and all changes that I made are included within here. Now in my analytics, this like a lake house has an analytics endpoint. So we can take a look at my analytics endpoint as well. So we can see that when it does do any kind of the backup, what it's going to do is it automatically takes a picture of your data and your structure so that you have all the different structures contained within it, and queries as well. So if you have created any model layouts, they are going to exist as well. And you can do it for all tables, or you can create a specific layout for any one of your items. So here's, it just grabbed everything and put it inside here. And of course I can make it bigger by then again doing the scaling that I have for this. So it is a really kind of a robust database that you don't have to be a DBA to get working and running. And it's very easy to start playing around with it as well. All right, so some things to remember about SQL DB. Your data is stored in OneLake. You do have that built-in source control. You have built-in performance summary, and there's really easy GraphQL support for different applications. Want to kind of look at some of the pros and cons if you're evaluating whether or not this is something that you might want to consider for your organization. There are, as you can see, kind of different philosophies about query auto-tuning. Now, some people, DBAs in particular, think, oh gosh, I want to be able to turn that off. I want to do my own query tuning. I don't like what it has done. One of the things that I will say that is a little bit different about the Fabric database versus Azure SQL DB is this is a more modern version of query auto-tune. So it does contain perhaps better performance than you may have seen if you have used it in the past. So if you're like, I'm not going to use that, maybe think about that. You might want to, because it's not going to be the same as how it was before. So you may get better performance than you would have thought of previously. The performance monitoring, I think, is a great tool. I wish that was in all SQL databases because it makes life so much easier. Now, one of the cons is you don't have any prioritization of workspace. This was something that you saw inside of SQL data warehouse, Synapse data warehouses. So there really is no way to optimize your performance workloads versus other workloads. The built-in source control is great. You always can make sure that your entire database is backed up, and it's doing auto management. So you're not going to have to worry about, do I have a database backed up? Do I need to reindex? All of that is handled for you, tasks you don't need to worry about. Now, here is the kicker, though. This is in preview, and we do not know how much this is going to cost when it gets released. Perhaps it will be included in side of Fabric. There may be an additional charge for it. These are things that we are unaware of at this time. It is something that will be released when the product goes into GA from preview, probably a little bit before that. One of the other things to remember is that Microsoft tends to coordinate a lot of their release information around their very large conferences, and they will the US Fabric conference is going to be the last week of May, the first week of March. And that might be a great place when all the announcements are going to be coming out. So we'll probably find out a lot more, if not earlier, about the pricing that is going to be available for this product. So keep your eyes peeled to announcements around FabricCon, because that's always a big deal. And if you're there, come say hello. I will be speaking at it. So both slides. So if you're thinking, well, maybe I want to wait until the SQL DB is released, what are the other things that I can do that mirror the kind of functionality that I get with Fabric DB, but are released products? And one of the things I want to say, hey, there's no reason why you should not be using an Azure SQL DB. Right now, there's a pretty big cost difference because, it's included versus Fabric versus not. It'll be very interesting to see going forward how competitive the pricing is for Azure SQL DB versus what is Microsoft's SQL database inside of Fabric. Azure SQL DB is a great database. It has been used for a number of years. It includes auto-tune. You can turn it off. You are on your own when it comes to creating source control configurations for it. You could create a warehouse and do a Fabric warehouse instead of it. Another option that you might look at is SQL Managed Instance. This is where again, it's kind of a low code SQL environment because Microsoft is managing all of the maintenance and you don't have to worry about that. And you can also look to mirror existing sources. So if your data source is currently an Azure SQL DB, or a SQL Server managed instance. Those are, or you could do Cosmos DB or Snowflake. These are databases that Microsoft supports inside of Fabric for as mirrored. So you can just use the mirrored copies for all of your data analytic needs so that you don't have to worry about getting all of your data into Fabric to be able to use all the feature and Fabric functionality. Now you'll notice that all of these options are cloud-based, and this is the direction that a lot of data is going. Data is going to be looked at, in the cloud because this is where you have flexibility for compute and backup for all these things. So you may be thinking, well, maybe my data isn't all in the cloud yet. How can I get that to migrate? And one of the things, if you're looking to migrate to the cloud or inside of Fabric, that is definitely something that Santor can help you out with. Maybe SQL DB is where you want to go, but you don't have data all sorts of other places right now. So you may look to figure out how exactly you are going to pull all of your data inside of Fabric so that you can load it up into a SQL DB. There's many different ways of accessing or adding data into Fabric. You maybe have a lot of data that is currently in Click and you want to move to a different reporting environment for your organization. Definitely something that Santor can help you out with when it comes to migration. And with that, I wanted to open this up to any questions that we might have. Whoops. And also make sure that we've got Toral's contact information so that you can contact us if you have any questions about how Santor can help you migrate your data to Fabric.
Yeah, this is great, Ginger. Great insights, and very excited about this new SQL databases. So, yep, this is amazing. Ginger, I had a question actually. What happens when I create my own index to tune a query if auto index is turned on? So, how does that work?
Well, while AutoTune will delete its own indices if it determines that they're not useful and they're not helpful to you, it will leave yours alone. So you do not have to worry about any index that you create going away because AutoTune is turned on. AutoTune is not going to impact anything that you decide to do over on top of what it has created. Great question.
Wonderful, wonderful. I have one other question, and we'll wait for the attendees to post their questions as well. But in the meantime, I'm going to grab some of your time here. So I know that in a lake house or a warehouse, I cannot create a temp table. Can I do that in SQL DB in Fabric?
Yes, I know that this is a constant question that I get with people who are used to using a lot of SQL, and they want to use when they're using a lake house or a warehouse inside of Fabric. The fact that they can't do that is a bit of a problem. However, since SQL DB is really another version of an Azure SQL DB, all of the SQL functionality that you are familiar with and enjoy using inside of your SQL database are available inside of SQL DB, and that includes temp tables and
Okay.
cursors and triggers and other things that are unavailable in lake houses anywhere.
Okay, great. Ginger, we have a question here. The question is, anything you can say about integrating on-prem SQL? Any gotchas or need to knows?
One of the things about integrating on-prem SQL is you might want to examine if it is in the same status that you want to include it inside of your SQL database. So if you're like, it's good, I don't want to modify it, great. But this might be a time where you're like, I'm doing something new. I might want to perhaps re-architect my database a little bit. That might be something that you're doing. In terms of issues doing that, the only issue is how you are going to choose to migrate your data to a Fabric to make that happen. You've got a number of different options. Probably the easiest one is to use a Azure Data Factory, because it has that connector, so that you can easily upload to Fabric. And Fabric also includes an ADF shortcut, so you can take anything existing that you have and add that to your Fabric environment as well. So either a pipeline inside of Fabric or ADF, one of the two. Great question.
Great. Thank you, Ginger. Ginger, if I have a SQL DB in Fabric, can I connect to it using Direct Lake?
Yes, as a matter of fact, you don't have to do anything to have your data in Direct Lake. Microsoft automatically puts a copy of your database in OneLake, which means that it's going to act like a mirror, have all of the mirror feature functionality, which is going to provide you the ability to just have that happen. So you can use Direct Lake and use your data that you have inside of a SQL DB without doing anything.
Okay, wonderful. Great. Ginger, I think that is all the questions that we have for today. I'm not seeing any come through, but I think we are good with Q&A, I believe. So thank you all for attending today's webinar. I hope this session has given you valuable insights. And as you consider the next steps in modernizing your data platforms, remember that Migrate to Fabric solution that Ginger has already introduced you guys to is here to make your transition smooth and efficient. Yeah, that would be great, Ginger, to pull that up. Thank you. With our expertise, we can help you harness the full power of Microsoft Fabric to meet your organization's goals. If you have any questions or would like to explore how we can help you support, in your data journey further, please feel free to reach out to me at tgoradia@santortech.com. And thank you once again for your time and participation. Have a great day, and we look forward to connecting with you soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.